So, did you know that several decades ago, the college football team at the University of Florida got in big trouble because they thought they were using steroids, because they were using something before their games and during their games, and they were winning all their games. Does anyone know what it was? It wasn't coconuts, by the way. I'll give you a hint. Who knows what it was? I'll give you a hint. They were drinking something. And it's a very popular drink now. It's made so much money, like probably billions of dollars since it was made. Not Coca-Cola. Yes. Yes, it's Gatorade. That's right. And do you know why it's called Gatorade? Yeah, the Florida Gator. That's their mascot, right? So they invented Gatorade, but what is Gatorade? What's in it? Yeah, sugar. What else? Yeah, additives. Well, what additives specifically? Electrolytes, right? Potassium, sodium, electrolytes. So it's water, sugar, and electrolytes. Doesn't seem that complicated, right? But do you know what coconut water is? What is it? What's inside coconut water? Yeah. Yeah, water, sugar, and electrolytes. This is perfectly adapted to when you're doing vigorous exercise or when you're sweating specifically. But where does it grow? Where does it grow? Yeah, not just warm, but what else? Warm and moist. Yeah, warm and humid, right? So what place are you most likely to get heat stroke or exhaustion from dehydration? What kind of climates? Yeah, warm and moist, right? Hot and humid, because if it's hot and dry, you can sweat and you can evaporate the sweat and that can cool you. But in the hot, humid environment, you can't evaporate, right? You just sweat and it drips and it just drips and drips. And you take a shower to cool off and then you need another shower when you're done, right? So hot, humid environments are very difficult to cool off. But does the coconut require cultivation? Like, do you need to fertilize it and stuff like that? Or does it grow wild? What do you think? It grows on its own. Did you know that? It doesn't need anything. You can cultivate it, but the thing is you don't need to cultivate it. It just grows on its own in hot, humid environments. And the thing is that in hot, humid environments, you're going to sweat a lot more. And the perfect Gatorade is just right there for you, growing naturally, wild, right? Isn't that incredible? But watch this. This is even more incredible. When you are vomiting, right, and you try to drink to rehydrate yourself, but then you vomit, right? The problem is that if you get dehydrated enough, you'll keep vomiting, right? So you'll vomit, you'll get more dehydrated, and you'll feel more nauseous, then you'll vomit more. So then what do you have to do? What do you do with that person? What do you think? Yeah, maybe. Well, let's say they vomit it, though. What if they vomit it? They vomit it up. Then what? What would they need? Yeah, they need an IV, right? IV, because if they can't take it this way, they have to take it in the vein. But you know what's interesting? Can you put just anything in someone's IV? No, they'll die, right? It has to be very, very balanced. It has to have the right concentration, the right pH. Everything has to be perfect. And it also can't have bacteria, so it has to be sterile, right? That's why IV fluid is so expensive. When you vomit, right, you also lose certain electrolytes. Does anyone want to guess which electrolyte is the most important that you lose a lot of? Not calcium. It's a positive ion, though. Yes. It's not sodium. But you do lose sodium, you're right. But this is a critical one. Like if this one is too high or too low, your heart will just stop. Yes, it's potassium, absolutely. Who wants to guess what the highest potassium, one of the highest potassium foods in the world is? Everyone says bananas. I don't know why this is, even though bananas are like it's number 87 on the list. It's very low, actually. It's still good in potassium, but it's really low. But the guy for Chiquita, the marketing guy, he must have been a genius because the entire world knows that bananas have potassium. Even my patients, they say, I don't know much, doctor, but I do know that potassium is found in bananas. But this is something even higher than bananas. Who wants to guess what it is? No, lentils are very high. Beans are very high, specifically white beans or navy beans. They're very high in potassium. This is even higher. Did you know it's coconut water? Coconut water. And did you know that this coconut water can be put in your IV unchanged? And did you know that the inside of that coconut, before you open it, is sterile? When I ran out of IV fluid when I was in Fiji, I went and I put some iodine on the coconut eye, and we spiked the coconut, vented the top, and I gave 3 coconuts IV to the person who was vomiting. No, not experiment. It's been done. It's in the medical literature. No experiment. It's been done in World War II. This has been used for a long time, but nobody tells you this. So that's the thing. Is it all just random? Did the coconut just mutate and develop that way? Or maybe there's somebody who loves you. Maybe there's somebody who knew that you would get dehydrated, who knew that you would need rehydration, who knew that when you vomited, that you would need the potassium put back, who knew that you needed something sterile in your vein. Could that be? I think so. How many people like art? Yes. You like sculpture? You like art? Good. I'm glad. Me too. When you take kids on the beach, what do they all want to make? What do they all want to build? Yeah, sandcastles, of course. And did you know that it took many, many years for them to discover who was building all these sandcastles? Did you know that? It wasn't until the late 70s and early 1980s that they found out who was making all these sandcastles. And do you know who it was? It was a fish. Yes. And let's listen to the fish. Whoops. That's not going to work. Let's try this. Let's listen to the baby cry while we find the fish. Now, can you guys hear anything? I don't hear stuff coming through the projector. Do you hear it? There's no volume here. Well, I'm just going to put the microphone here, okay? So you'll be able to hear it. Okay, ready?
Unfortunately, this small Japanese pufferfish is dull, almost to the point of invisibility.
Can you hear it? Okay. Does it need to be louder? I'm sorry, it doesn't get any louder than that.
But to compensate, he is probably nature's greatest artist. To grab a female's attention, he creates something.
Did you notice the reason that David Attenborough said? What was the reason? He makes it to grab a female's attention, right? I'll talk about that. He's not entirely telling the truth.
That almost defies belief. His only tools are his fins. In his head, a plan of mathematical perfection. He plows the sand, breaking it up into the finest of particles. These shells females aren't just rubbish to be removed. He uses them to decorate the bridges of his construction. He can't rest for more than a moment, but must work 24 hours a day for a week, or the current will destroy his creation. A final tidy up, and his masterpiece is complete.
So the pufferfish is only about 10 or 15 centimeters in length, but he creates a structure that is 2 meters in diameter and is absolutely perfect. It is the most perfect structure in all of creation. But David Attenborough says it's to attract a female's attention. But what he doesn't tell you is that the pufferfish only makes this in one location in the world, even though it's in all the oceans of the world. It only makes it in one place. And also,
nowhere else in nature does an animal construct something as complex and perfect as this.
but what they also don't tell you is that they try to say that the structure is to protect the eggs so that they don't wash away or get eaten. But the thing is that again, pufferfish are in every ocean of the world, but they only make this structure in one location. They also don't tell you that the best place to put the eggs would be probably right there, right? I mean, from a like an actual current rationale, it'd be better to put the eggs there. But they don't tell you that they put the eggs right in the center. They don't tell you any of that. Because they're trying to convince you that, oh, this is for eggs, to preserve this, to preserve that. But that's all a lie, because it only happens in one location in the entire world. Yeah, why? That's the whole question. That's the real question, is why, right? So that's the thing. Anyone want to guess which nation in the world is the most atheist nation in the world? What do you think? What country? It's not China, even though China has the most atheists. This is the highest percentage of atheists. Norway is high, but not the highest. It's actually Japan. And you know what's interesting is, do you know where this fish makes the structure? It's only one place. Who wants to guess? Yeah, it's Japan. But my question is, why? Why would it only make it in Japan? It lives in every ocean. Why? Absolutely. But see, you say that because you already believe in God, right? But for me, it is very important to have the pufferfish because it not only gives existence and evidence to God, because the pufferfish is not that smart. Octopi are smarter. Dolphins are smarter. Whales are smarter. Many things in the ocean are much smarter, but he creates the most perfect structure in the entire world. Why would he do that? And why would he surround the entire island of Japan? It's not far offshore. You can only go 100 feet offshore and you'll start seeing these structures. And it's not super deep. You can actually get at them yourself. But they create the most complex structure in the entire creative world just around Japan. Why? And I believe that the animals, the plants, all of creation not only tells you who is God, but what he is like. Because you and I, if we created the pufferfish, we would send it to Israel, right? But that's not what God does. He knew that his Japanese children would leave him more than any other country. And so, like Jonah, he sent them a fish. Because God says, where sin abounds, grace does much more abound. God sends his love and his greatest power and his greatest efforts, not for those who obey him, but for those who need him most. And that's what I'm asking you. Where do you spend your time and your money and your talents? Is it the people who are nice to you? Or is it the people who need you most? Because if you want to be like God, that is what you will do. You will go to where you are needed most. You will help those who need the help that you can give them the most. Let's take a look at Job 12. When you look at this Bible verse, you look at the animals, you look at the birds, you look at the plants, you look at the fishes. What do all those things have in common? What do all those things have in common? It's up on the slide. They're all living things, right? They all have DNA, right? And who discovered DNA? Do you remember? Yes. Yes, and Robert Watson. But what did they believe? Do you know what they believed before their discovery? What was their top 5 belief? It's one of the top 5 beliefs. What do you think? Yeah, atheism. They were evolutionists. They believed in the Big Bang. These scientists believed that everything came from the Big Bang. But after they discovered DNA, did it change their belief? What do you think? It did. Do you know what they believed afterwards? What do you think? No. They believed that life started from aliens that came onto Earth and started. You laugh. This is the truth. You can look it up. In Francis Crick's memoir, it's called The Book of Life. He said he could no longer believe in the Big Bang because when he looked at the double helical structure of DNA, he saw design, he saw order, and he saw language. And really, he's right. There is language. The same sequence in DNA that creates your blue eyes will create blue eyes in another creature. Did you know that? That language is universal amongst the plants, the animals, and the birds, and the fishes. That language is the language of creation. And he has created that language. That is why the antediluvians, do you know why God had to destroy them? What was the sin, according to Ellen White, that actually God had to step in and finally destroy them? Does anyone remember? It was the amalgamation of men and beasts. Did you know that? So they had begun to tinker with this. Have you noticed recently that man has begun to tinker with that? We are near the end. We are so close to the end. God must step in because man is now manipulating the very language of life. And it will result in total destruction of not just the earth, but of our souls. So God has to step in at this point. But when you look at these scientists, right, highly intelligent, they could not confess that Yahweh was creator. Even though they saw the evidence, they would not confess that God of the Bible had created all things. They literally believe in what's called panspermia, which means many seeds of life. And if you read, you can look up Francis Crick, panspermia. He'll say he believes in aliens that started life in different parts of the universe. And that is the difficulty of the human mind. We don't need information. We need inspiration. We don't need information. We need transformation. We need a new heart. We need to change who we are. Because I can give you the information. I've presented this lecture to an audience of 100% atheists. And then I asked them afterwards, I said to a woman, I said, so what did you think? And she said, oh, it was very nice. And I said, but what did you think about the flower? And I started to bring her conviction. She said, oh, that flower, you know, I think it's our Western mind that causes us to see a face there. And I said, in my mind, I said, are you smoking crack? You're insane. But I didn't say that. I was more polite. I said, can you explain that to me? Oh, maybe someone from China or South America, they might not see a face. And then I was convinced that she was smoking crack. Now, this is an intelligent person. She was a professional, and she's sitting here having this conversation with me. And I think in my mind, I'm like, last time I checked, people from China and South America have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, is what makes a face. But she couldn't say God. He wouldn't come out of her mouth. She could not confess it. So she had to do something that was insane to deflect the evidence. And that's the thing. Although Francis Crick is brilliant, he has a genius IQ, right? He cannot say God, even though the evidence is all around him, even though he discovered the evidence himself. He can't say it because we are broken. That is why. We are broken. All of creation is not perfect anymore. But despite the fact that there is sin, right? Even though sin has marred God's perfect work, all things in creation still reflect His glory, except for one thing. And do you know that? One thing? Nothing in all of creation, except for the selfish heart of you and I, lives unto itself. You are the problem. I am the problem. God's vast symphony of perfection, there is one sour note. I challenge you right now. 95% of your time, your money, and your talents is spent on yourself. Did you know that? It's spent on what you want to do. You know why? Because you are out of harmony with creation. I am out of harmony with creation. God designed you to be like Him. God designed you not to go seek for fun or entertainment or even seeking for happiness. The longer you seek for happiness, the longer you're going to seek for happiness. Because happiness does not come from seeking for happiness. Happiness comes from doing your duty to mankind and the people around you. Happiness comes from coming back into harmony with creation. You are God's crowning creation of this planet. And He designed you to reflect who He is more than any other creation. He designed you to use your talents, your powers, your intellect, your money where it's needed most. Where there is unbelief, He designed to bring belief. Where there is despair, He designed you to bring hope. Where there is suffering, He designed to bring you to bring relief to others. That is what will give meaning to your life. That is what will give happiness and power and purpose to your life. You will never be happy serving yourself. You will scroll through those social medias until you die. But you will never be satisfied. You will never be happy. And so I appeal to you. I appeal, if you would like to come back into harmony with your Creator. How many of you would like to do that? Say, God, I want to come back into harmony with my design, with my original design. How many of you would like to do that? If that is your desire, I promise you He will do it. He will bring you back into harmony. You just need to ask Him. Because He says, if you will seek me and you will find me when you search for me with all your heart.